OSP, outside plant fiber optic networks or infrastructure. I'm Chris, a fiber splicer specializing in maintenance, upgrades to existing networks, auditing, troubleshooting, and emergencies. Basically everything that has to do with outside plant fiber splicing, aerial, buried, and underground like manholes. In this video playlist series, I'm going to start kind of at the beginning for the greener guys. And as the videos progress through the playlist, get into the more advanced and technical situations that some of us guys out in the field that have been out doing it for a while, like the team leads we run into and different kind of situations. All the tips, tricks, and secrets of the trade that I learned along the way before my retirement due to a car accident that blinded me totally in this eye and almost totally in this one. So the way I'm going to remain in the field is by getting on here and sharing with you guys everything that I learned along the way. I'm also available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week to be you or your company's personal consultant. If adding a layer of security or another team member to kind of brainstorm with in any situation, I don't care if you're a newer guy needing help on a regular basis or if you're an advanced crew lead that may have questions about, say, a road move or a throw over. My email's right here. I'll be more than happy to reach out to you and build a relationship with you or your company. So let's start kind of at the beginning as if I were a greener guy. The theory of operation. To paint this mental image in my mind of what exactly this fiber optic network consists of. The infrastructure, the project, the build. I'll do my best to not say terms in one word, that way it gets the point across to everybody, because there's a lot of different terms that mean the same thing, and the terminology is huge in our business. So what is it that we're actually out here trying to do? We're trying to provide a path for this light to travel from point A to point B. So for mental image sake, let's say point A is the CO, the central office, where the telephone company has all their equipment, say it's downtown. Within that telephone office, there's going to be a panel, a FDP, a fiber distribution panel, a patch panel. Okay, so let's say we have 2 cell phone towers. This is just the simplest vision of it here. We leave the CO. We're going to drop fibers off at this cell phone tower. Then we're going to come down and drop fibers off at this cell phone tower. In between those cell phone towers, there's going to be splice points. It could be in the air, it could be in the ground, it could be in a manhole, a ped, a handhole. So at this cell phone tower and this cell phone tower, there's going to be another FDP, a patch panel. Our job as fiber splicers is to get the fibers an efficient path for the light to travel from this patch panel to this patch panel and this patch panel, and ultimately back to this patch panel. Now there may be a splice point here. Definitely going to be one right about here. And depending on how close that last cell phone tower is, there may be one in between, and then there's going to be one at the tower. So if you're new and your company's sending you out here in the field and they're saying, build this splice case and just splice them together color for color, 2 24 count fibers, right? You go out there and you really have no idea what's going on, but you can take 2 cables and build an enclosure and splice 24 fibers together. So this is just a very simple idea of the theory of operation, right? There's a lot of technical stuff that goes on in between this, and let's do this. Let's do a fiber to the home example. Now this FDP, where the service originates, it doesn't have to be at the central office. The service could come from a pedestal. It could come from a cabinet. It could come from what they call a remote. It's like a little fortified shed out in the middle of nowhere. Ultimately, they lead back to the central office, but the central office can power up these remotes, and then the remote basically becomes the central office for that area. That's going to depend on the ID of the cable, the panel's ID. Two fibers may go 5 miles outside of town to feed a remote, and that remote may have a switch in it that powers up 37 houses. But nonetheless, the theory of operation here is that the service originates somewhere on the outside plant. Now, this panel here, this FDP, is more than likely going to be inside. Don't let it fool you. That's just where the outside plant begins. The equipment that the telephone company uses has to be able to patch over, and they're not going to put that outside. So it's the beginning of the outside plant. The panels are more often than not inside of a building, a remote, a cabinet, a feeder pad. Now, once we've say we've done every splice along the line out to this remote or this cell phone tower, we're going to be testing the loss from the panel where it originates. Let's say it's at the central office to point B, which is at the remote or the cell tower, that panel. We're going to be testing the loss of light between A and B. Although there may be 5 things going on in between A and B, the splice cases, the splice pads, but that's in a nutshell, that's the theory of operation with what we're dealing with. It gets really technical when you're talking about new neighborhoods, like these 150 home neighborhoods that have these feeder pads in every backyard. But it's still the same idea. There will be one large cabinet that has 864 ports that put out the light. You're going to splice the path to the pad at the home however many times you got to splice it. Then once you get to that pad at the home, you're going to be testing back to that feeder pad and measuring the loss of light. Now, later on in these videos of the playlist, we're going to get into the testing and troubleshooting and stuff like that, but that's the theory of operation on outside plant fiber.